On this episode, we bring up your responses to people not having the WWE Network, Xavier Woods' new gimmick, Rollins versus Orton, Rusev versus Sheamus, Survivor Series, and tons more now on Byte That. Welcome everybody to episode 63 of Byte That, the somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is Hershey the Wonder Dog. Thanks for hitting that download button, checking out the podcast each and every week. Remember, we are available every single Tuesday night on YouTube, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, TuneIn. We're everywhere. And if you like the podcast, show your support by leaving us a review in any of the previously mentioned places. It really goes a long way into supporting us. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And as always, I'm joined first, all the way from Boston, by the way of Massachusetts, Mr. Ryan McNulty.
Yes, I'm here, and I have absolutely nothing clever to say, so I'll just pass it back to you, Juan.
Thank you, Mr. McNulty. It's time for it now. And all the way from the Double F in Manitoba, we got Keith Poshik, the nice one.
With something witty to say, who do you think would win in a fight between Hershey the Wonder Dog and Pepper, Al Snow's dog?
I'm afraid
the one
to
that's
even
still
answer
alive.
Right now.
True.
We have a clean tag now, just in case. Keith.
By not by choice. This was just laid upon us by chance. So
yeah, it's a little bit of a quick
welcome
backstory.
To the family-friendly edition of the Byte That podcast.
What?
Exactly. Because originally we were explicit, then we woke up one day and we're clean all of a sudden. Except none of us actually had a hand in making that happen.
We took a podcast shower and all of a sudden we're clean.
All of our old episodes were tagged clean. We warn you, not all of them are clean, but we're going to try our best to be on the cleaner side going forward
especially
until
the
we
one
figure
that
out what the
rhymes
heck
with
happened.
Rick Ranases.
Basically, to summarize this, if we say anything bad, Keith needs to spend more time editing the show. So, With that being said, we got another Raw. Because on Mondays, Raw happens, and then on Tuesdays, we record, and then Tuesday night, we go online. Now, what happened on Raw? We got a couple of things. We also have some things about WWE 2K15. We got some network stuff we're going to be talking about. But first, I want to actually start off with the end of Raw. Because after all, there's a network exclusive match we're going to get to between Sheamus and Rusev for the U.S. title, which Rusev, for those that don't know, well, he had a pretty good outcome. But at the end of Raw, we saw that officially, Randy Orton is no longer part of the Authority. He was officially assaulted. A bunch of bad stuff happened to him. Keith, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm going to out myself right now and say that I fell asleep before the end of Raw. So you'll have to fill me in on this one.
Oh, see, I actually fell asleep, but I can justify my thing. Because in Puerto Rico, see, we're not as smart as Ryan. I'm not going to take that to you, because if I give you that dose of cockiness, Keith, like, you're just going to run with that.
There's a quote.
I'm pointing
in
at Ryan.
Puerto Rico, we're not as smart as Ryan.
What?
No, but basically when the time zones change, we don't really change our clock. So right now, we actually record the podcast an hour later for me. So Raw ends at midnight as opposed to 11 p.m. And I work every morning, so that's not going to really happen. But what I did do is during my lunch break, I caught up during of the things that happened on Raw on their YouTube channel. And so to summarize, what happened was that at the end of Raw, they still sort of teased that maybe Triple H and Randy Orton, because of their past, they could sort of be together, but obviously that was not the case. Randy hit Seth Rollins with another RKO. Then a bunch of stuff happened, and he ended up getting curb stomped on top of steel steps, which was pretty brutal. That spot looked pretty vicious. The camera angle, they did a really good job of. It reminded me a lot of the Dana Bryan caning segment that they had between Stephanie and Triple H, which was, I think, the last time that I saw something, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a little hard to take in."
Not getting curb stomped through cement.
And also, Orton was curb stomped beforehand onto the announce table and was actually busted open. So he was already busted open before the curb stomp onto the steps. And yeah, he was actually bleeding pretty bad, and they didn't have any doctors or anything interrupt it. They just went along with it, and it really made it seem a lot more brutal because they didn't stop it in any way. Although there was kind of a time where they were all kind of just like standing around, and it was a little awkward, and Triple H was like whispering to Stephanie or like what's going on. But then, things persisted, and I don't know if you guys saw Kane trip over Orton at the end.
That I did see.
That's everywhere.
It was hilarious. You just heard like a bunch of people nearby just laughing at him. It was just like right in the corner of the screen, just playing his day. Kane's trying to walk over Orton and just completely
They already
falls.
have an RKO Vine about that.
Do they
I don't know if
really?
you guys
So
saw that.
Orton's in two places at once.
Exactly, because you see Orton just laying on the steps, and then Orton just sneaks up and then hits Kane with an RKO. It's pretty awesome. I want to ask both of you. Well, I guess Ryan first, seeing as Keith, you haven't even watched it.
Nope.
Did you like the segment? Because for me, I think that this is actually a pretty good way of making Randy the good guy, not necessarily the babyface. I don't know if you get the difference I'm trying to point out, but they're making him not be hated, but he's not the babyface at the same time.
The guy you cheer for, basically.
And almost not even. It's almost like this guy is just feuding. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That type of thing.
No, I do like it. Once again, though, this is a situation where a guy is kind of getting hot again, and they gotta write him off TV with a curb stomp onto an object. Because for those who don't know, Randy Orton's going to film The Condemned 2. So this is like Dean Ambrose situation version 2.0. Seth Rollins is just the king of writing people off TV to go shoot movies now. But no, I like what they're doing with Orton's character, though. Like you said, he's not just this typical babyface. He's just defying the authority. He has the motivations to be against them for what they've done to him. So it all really makes sense, and Orton's character right now is really working, and, he doesn't have to be the good guy, and I like what they're doing with it.
One thing that I really want to point out that I like about this is that it's not the whole, nobody really got backstabbed. If you think about it, like, yeah, yesterday they fought against each other, the Authority and Orton, but it's a mixture of like Orton having a big ego and then the Authority having Seth Rollins. So it's sort of like, you know what, we're just going to go with the newer guy, and then you're just going to go to the side.
Well, Rollins also straight up curb stomped him 2 weeks ago for no reason. And did he interrupt something else? There was something else that he did, but there was more than enough reason for Orton to be pissed at Rollins than just the fact that they're behind Rollins more than Orton.
No, but that's what I loved about it, because we're talking about Rollins, but we never really got that confrontation, that situation between Triple H and Randy. And Keith, I actually think you'll really like this segment, because you could see a lot of times Triple H sort of had this phase where it's like he didn't want to do this. Like, he didn't want it to get to that level. And that's what I appreciated, because Seth Rollins is not the Authority. He's just one of them. And that's the guy that Randy had the situation with. But here's the moment where he's getting the crap beat out of him. And then you see Triple H and Stephanie sort of like being at the wayside, like enjoying it. But at the same time, it's like when you're I was going to say beating your own child. But I don't really know how to describe.
Just ask Adrian Peterson.
But no, that was going to be my question to you guys, was what was Triple H doing this whole thing? Because the place that my mind immediately went to was, well, this obviously leads up to Randy Orton being a member of Team Cena and costing the Authority being the Authority. But if he's back in time for that, that's probably where it will go. But maybe it leads to bigger things with like a Triple H Randy Orton.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, I think he's going to be back in time for the Survivor Series match. I don't know how much I like him teaming up with Cena, but it makes sense he's against the Authority, so it's really kind of by that reason alone he's on the team.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
to steal Juan's word, it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Exactly. So as long as it's not super best friends team, everybody gets along just fine, and Orton's like, look, I'm just here because I want to take down the Authority, then it's great. Which also, we should mention that there's an actual consequence to the Survivor Series match. How about that?
Yeah, and completely contrary to last year's Survivor Series match, this one actually matters. How many people actually remember the one that happened last year? It was the Usos, the Rhodes Brothers, and Rey Mysterio taking on, I was going to say the Vaudevillains. I don't know why. But the Wyatt family and the Shield.
No, wasn't it the
No, it was the because it was the Shield and other people, because the Wyatt family fought CM Punk and Daniel Bryan.
Right. Wait, who are the other people? Crap.
This is how memorable it was, guys.
Exactly. Point proven.
The Real Americans. That's what it was.
Right.
The Real
Indeed.
Americans. There you go. And I mean, look at that. You think about that scenario, and nothing happened. Like, everything's changed from last year. And the thing is, where did all that go? It seems like this year we can actually get something that will slowly build up towards whatever the hell they want to do. But it's not just a random thrown together match, because where the hell is Rey Mysterio? You know, Rey Mysterio was very much just shoehorned in there.
It's very easy to forget that Survivor Series is considered to be one of the big four, and this kind of brings it back to that level, or at least takes a big step towards it.
Well, yeah, the fact that one of the big four pay-per-views was in Boston last year, I could have gone, and I chose not to, because look at what we just named for the Survivor Series match, and then it was also headlined by Randy Orton versus The Big Show for the title. So, yeah, I'm kind of glad I passed on that one.
And how crazy is this? Think about it. At that pay-per-view, about a year ago, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan were tag teaming.
Against the Wyatts.
Just think about that
at
for a
that
second.
time.
Yeah, just think about that.
And now, where is any of them? You know?
Well, apparently Eric Rowan's,
is he the new Snitsky?
He has a little bit of a crush.
Is he the new Snitsky?
And Luke Harper is Victoria.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird stuff happening. Ain't gonna lie, I'm looking forward to it because I love the cheesy characters. We're gonna talk about the Xavier Woods vignette in a couple of minutes, but yeah, I think overall the Raw ending segment does a very good job of building up Survivor Series, but I just really hope that it doesn't become just Randy Orton good guy. I think we've all established that doesn't always work, and by doesn't always work, I mean it just does not work. Randy, just keep being yourself. Ashley Massaro, get her theme song, and then just keep doing your thing, buddy.
That's 2 weeks in a row. I'm not accepting this.
I know. You know what? I'm taking it, man. It's awesome theme song. Diva Surge. Go with
Audio Slave.
Exactly, sir. So, you know what? Sheamus is a dick. I'm just going to throw this out there.
I actually love that segue. Keep going.
You know what? Like, can I just rant on for about a minute about Sheamus?
Go for it.
And then somebody else just keeps... you know what? Sheamus, what the hell?
Hold on.
I mean, what the hell?
Are we going to have to click a button and go into a certain mode one?
Sure, why not?
All
just
right.
Play it.
Backlash! I'm not even good enough to call Backlash! Relic is killers go backwards?
It's good. That's pretty good.
Rant mode initiated.
Okay, Sheamus, so what the hell's going on? I mean, not only do you have one match on Raw, you have a match on Raw after. In the one match you do have on Raw, the guy that's barely promoted, barely featured, actually gets a counter victory, and then you freaking kick him in the head. Then you have this beard, like your facial hair was already ugly enough. You're somehow making yourself look worse in the progress. Tyson Kidd, poor dude. You know, poor dude, he's got the beads, and he's got to put stickers on them because WWE won't even promote that. Just think about that mindset poor Tyson Kidd had to go through. And then you're just going, fella, are you promoting just random bro kicks in school? Like, hey, teacher, I got a D grade. Bam, kick to the head. That doesn't happen in real life, Sheamus. So what the hell? I don't like you. You make me sad, and you make me really think about my future as a human being, and I don't like you. Go.
Rant mode disengaged.
So does that mean you love Rusev? Because he done got get?
Oh, he done did it now, dog. And Ryan's going to say something.
Well, yeah, I agree with you on Sheamus. If they didn't paint him to be such a nice guy and the fact that Michael Cole defends all of his actions, then I'd be all for it. If he was just a guy who likes to beat people up, whatever, I can get behind that. But it's this two-sidedness to him where I'm going to act like a nice guy, but at the same time, I'm going to kick a dude in the face who has cats on his kick pads, all right? Like, What is up with that?
Who does that?
You know, it's just, you lost the match, accept it. Unless you're a heel, then kick him in the face all you want. I don't know. It's just, it's trying to be, you know, it's trying to have both things, and it's just, it's why I don't like Sheamus's character, although I think he's great in the ring.
To sum it up, in the topic of character evolution, Sheamus would be the example of what not to do. Because he's just been the same person over and over. Think about the fact that we used to call him Friday Cena, and now look where he is.
It's almost like somewhere in the writing team, they changed who he was, but he never got a memo. So it's like, hey, Sheamus, you're technically supposed to be heel now. But he never got the memo, so he just smiles.
It's very much,
as
though,
he bullies
like
people.
when he feuded with Sandow way back when, and he would do these intellectual challenges, and Sheamus wouldn't be able to do them, so he just kicked him in the face. Like, oh, I can't solve the Gordian knot. I'm just going to kick you in the face.
Poor Sandow. At least he's off to bigger, better things. But one thing that I do want to mention is that, yeah, Sheamus had not only one match, he actually had the first ever post-Raw because, 3 hours ain't enough, man. They really do almost need 5.
They really do need 5.
Because if you count the pre-show and all that stuff, you're going to get pretty close eventually. Although they're getting very mixed about the pre and post shows. It seems to be like whatever they can fit in, they'll do. So if they can't do it a week or something, like right now, they just, hey, we'll have a random match take place after Raw. Because once again, 3 hours is not enough. So there is a United States Championship match. Sheamus defended against Rusev Bachka. And we got a new U.S. champion. It was a very good match. Did you guys manage to catch it?
Nope.
Nay.
Oh, well, you know what? I actually got to see it. And I'm going to point out something about the network quickly. As I mentioned, I fell asleep because I have to go to work. I wake up in the morning, get my coffee.
Feeling like P.
Then
Diddy.
I think to myself, I was avoiding saying that. But I want to watch the match. So logically, I go to the network. But the network doesn't make it obvious. Like, you know what? This huge thing happened. But the network is very staticky. Like, it's not reactive to whatever's going on. So then I'm thinking, so is this under Raw? Like, is it Backstage Pass? But they promoted it as another thing. It's not the Backstage Pass. But then it turns out it is. But even the thumbnail was just the generic logo. So it took me like 10 minutes to find this freaking match on the network because it did make it obvious.
How many times did you have to hear...
Oh, man. Can that be a text message thing? Because I hear that way too much, especially when the internet's really bad.
No, I agree with what you're saying, though, because they have, with their whole 24/7 stream thing, that's kind of what's taking up the real estate of what should probably be like a recently added type of situation going on, but they don't really have that. So like you said, it's not easy to find things that were just updated. So I think they really need to add something like that. And you know exactly why they did this post-match thing. Because they got the network for free this week, they wanted to, while they could still remind everyone, get people on the network just using it. Even just to watch that match. They're on it. They're going to start playing around with it. And, trying to get people to get used to using it and like it so that they will actually subscribe.
Subscribe. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so about the U.S. title match itself, it was a very good match. I will say that. They gave it a very good amount of time. At one point, it seemed like Sheamus was about to get out of the Accolade, but then a couple of minutes later, he got him into that again. And they did a very much Stone Cold Bret Hart thing where he didn't tap out, so he just passed out. Kind of like how they did it at the very beginning of Rusev's career there on Raw.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool that he's actually the U.S. champion. It puts the character over. It keeps that Russian thing going, which we pointed out multiple times. We're not a big fan of the whole, anti-American stuff, but are you happy that he's champion? And if so, how do you think him being champion helps further develop the character?
First of all, thank freaking God they took the belt off Sheamus because it just wasn't doing anything. It's basically... The Intercontinental title of the last few years became the U.S. title. But I'd like to say that it helps Rusev, but really this is the same old story that they're doing with the United States Championship. Think about Cesaro a couple of years ago when he first debuted. It was just, I am American champion. I have your title. You don't, America. Ha ha ha.
Well, basically, I think this is the same thing, but the volume's turned way up. Because Cesaro was, anti-America, whatever, but it was not nearly to the degree that Rusev is about this. So, I mean, if there's any title he's going to hold that really works for his character, is the United States Championship. He can say, I rule over America, whatever. It fits. If there's any title that fits right now for him, it's this. So hopefully they turn it into like the Russian championship.
I was just about to say that. Tinfoil hat. How awesome would that be if they turned it into like the Russia championship and just put Vladimir Putin's face right on the front of it?
It's like Matt Hardy's Ring of Honor championship or whatever, if you've seen that.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, though, he kind of wants to be like dominating America, so maybe it stays as the U.S. title. I don't know.
So take their title and change it. That's a pretty good form of domination.
Yeah, I think that would definitely get some heat on him, and especially Lana. But, we'll see what happens. I don't think that the championship is going to be the main focus. I think they'll just, point it out. The same way Dean Ambrose was U.S. champion for how long? And how many times did he defend it? I know. Hey, we all love Ambrose. Put that pitchfork down, okay? We love Ambrose in this podcast. Hashtag panties, hashtag boxers and briefs, okay? We love the man. Now, somebody else that we love that got a very interesting segment was Dolph Ziggler. We forgot to put this in the notes, but I got to bring it up. There was a very interesting promo between Triple H and Dolph Ziggler that was very real. It almost felt like Triple H was Dolphin or something, like Mets fan. So he was somebody in there because virtually everything we talk about, we point out about Dolph Ziggler, that he has this glass ceiling or this point that he just can't seem to pass. He puts it out on TV. So what was your reaction to that?
The best line of the night was easily, there's this glass ceiling, but you can't see it. And he did the John Cena thing. That's Triple H at his best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were all watching it basically saying, Dolph, take the deal. Like, who cares about Team Cena? Everyone wants to see you get, more, you're due for more than what you've been given. So, take the deal, get the title shots and all of that. Because, I mean, exactly what he said was just a lot of real things, like that there's a lot of people that have been keeping Ziggler down, and Triple H admits that Ziggler works harder than almost anybody. So it was just going completely kind of breaking the fourth wall while still kind of keeping it relevant to the show. And, even though obviously Ziggler isn't going to take the deal, the way that Ziggler kind of refused, I thought was still strong, and the crowd's really into it. So hopefully this really this elevates Ziggler more. But I think they're doing a good job of actually putting some focus on him, especially when they had the opportunity with Cena out to emphasize Ziggler being a part of the team more.
And one thing I really enjoyed is that, obviously, I don't want to get my hopes up, but they're doing a very slow build-up with Dolph Ziggler because obviously every single other time they've tried and they've done it a little bit faster, even using the Money in the Bank as an example, something bad happens, either an injury or whatever the hell the case. The point is that he goes all the way back down. So maybe this is the opportunity. As you mentioned, Ryan, I would have preferred he took the championship opportunity, but at the same time, we got to think he's part of a much bigger picture. So I think it's better that he gets more crowd by his side and then, sort of see where it goes. So for those listening, are you happy with this? Do you think that the WWE is really sort of going to give him his fifth chance?
Plus, let's be real here. If he took that opportunity, it would be Dolph Ziggler versus Brock Lesnar. That would be a slaughter.
I would think of the selling.
I know. I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
If he F5'd him, he might end up in the crowd.
We got an F10. I think it was with Spike Dudley once. I think we could see an F20 out of Dolph Ziggler. Now, something else before we split the show into the half portion. We got a very unexpected promo. We got two, actually. We got one from Luke Harper, and then, we've been talking about this for months. This infamous stable that's going to debut featuring Xavier Woods and Big E and Kofi Kingston. It's going to happen, people. So then we get a video package about Xavier Woods doing a James Brown impersonation, saying that a new day is going to come. And then we are all just very confused because obviously their websites are reporting, wait. The stable, it's either disbanded or they're going to at some point become members of this. It's been like the longest running joke because what the hell? What's happening? At this point, I don't even know what to make out of this. Can somebody sort of give me some input?
Wait, so hold on. James Brown, as in the guy that goes like, I feel good. I knew that I would. Really?
I missed it. When did they air this? I missed this completely.
Yeah, and I missed this completely as well.
Okay, what the hell is going on?
Are you high? Did you dream this or something?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I don't think we've ever done this before on the podcast. We're leaving this part right now, but we're going to take a little break. They're watching this video, and we'll be right back. Back, people with Byte back.
All right, so I'm eating crud on that break. One. Totally James Brown. All right.
I think it was like James Brown or something mixed with like a televangelist. Is there going to be some sort of religious undertone or I don't know.
Just a quick interesting tidbit. You remember when like about a year and a half ago or something like that, there were a lot of NXT promos that were leaked out? Like, them just rehearsing stuff?
Yeah.
Xavier Woods had this exact same character, and he was originally going to debut against Ryback, because this was back when Ryback was being a bully. So, like, Xavier Woods was talking about, like, you're the bully. And I'm not even going to try to make that voice right now, but that was the thing that was happening, and I guess they're going back to it. But having seen that, having heard about all the reports about a stable, and now we got this, and then we've seen what he can do in NXT as a sort of 90s geek. Are you happy? Is this just stereotyping to the limit, and it's 2014 and it shouldn't be done? What is it?
It just seems like they have absolutely no idea what they want to do with Xavier Woods, because they'll try something, they'll let it go, it'll just fall flat, and then they'll move on to the next thing, then they won't even try that. And now we're seeing a completely new thing.
I think the Nation of Domination thing that they were going to do never really just got off the ground. They never really gave...
They never gave it a chance, though.
They didn't give it a chance. I think this is the first time they're legitimately going to do something with Xavier Woods. Like, maybe they actually finally sat down and really thought about it and actually have plans for him. Before he never had a vignette, and they didn't... And the Nation Domination thing just seemed thrown together one week. But the fact that it's with the vignettes, it seems pre-planned, like maybe they're actually going to run with it. But we can see with the example of Bo Dallas how quickly things can fall off,
And thanks for pointing out Bo Dallas, because obviously the internet's is split, because a lot of people are saying, it's going to be a dancer gimmick. And James Brown... he would do the dancing and all that, but that wasn't the primary focus. I think he's more of a motivational speaker type character. What I got. But we just got Bo Dallas. Like, we just got this character, and we saw what happened with Bo Dallas. So,
it worked, and they just gave up on it?
Exactly. It's like, hey, guess what? Now Xavier Woods, we know he's charismatic. We know he can pull this off, but... much like Bo Dallas, where is this going to go? Are they just going to drop the guy out, then injure him? What's going on?
By the way, we wish Bo Dallas a very speedy and healthy recovery. We believe in you, sir.
Can I just say this about the whole dancer thing where people complain that people get dancing gimmicks? Like, you ever think the fact that, Xavier Woods is an actual really good dancer and actually just wants to utilize things that he's good at for entertainment purposes?
True.
Just throwing that out there. Like, I don't think they just saddled him with the dancing gimmick. You generally give that to someone who can't dance.
No, Brodus Clay totally wasn't a thing.
You know what? Okay. That, you just,
add
You
to
just
this.
completely owned
Denied. You know what, Keith? Before we bring up your special segment, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to give us your impressions on the Luke Harper promo, the vignette. Go.
It was weird. It was cool. You guys didn't even know it was Luke Harper, but it was that one line that the making the whole thing together. But I'm kind of reluctantly excited about it because I'm excited to see what Luke Harper can do on his own. But at the same time, how many weird, creepy characters can they have on the show without it feeling redundant? Like, we're going to have Wyatt, Rowan, and Harper all in separate segments. That could be overkill, but we'll have to see.
And speaking of redundance, it's time for this week's
Tweet of the week.
That's right. As Juan said, it is time for El Dinero Disparo. It is the money shot. I used Google Translator, and that's what it told me.
What is it really, though?
What is it really?
I mean, you said it's technically money shot, but you literally did the translation. So it's money shot time.
I still don't know what's the Spanish one.
Oh, what would it translate to? I don't know. Money shot's like a slang term. It's not like an official thing, so...
All right, we're going with what I said, and just like going with it, this week's Tweet of the Week is brought to you by The Fans Podcast at The Fans Podcast on Twitter. This week's Tweet of the Week is, I went to a restaurant and yelled, "Feed me more." The police were later called. #raw, #raw buffalo.
Thank you, Keith, for that beautiful tweet of the week and for using Google Translate. We don't get promoted from them, but apparently we like to use it. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Remember, we also have a YouTube channel where we post videos like this Thursday. I'm actually going to bring up a very ambiguous and difficult question, which is, can wrestling be cool again? You know, I reviewed Monday Night War last week, and it sort of got me thinking. You know, everybody talks about how great wrestling was, the golden era and all that stuff. Well, can we sort of go back to that? And if not, do we just accept that for what it is? We also got some videos posted on the weekends hosted by Mr. McNulty himself. He does his own discussion videos. By the way, remember, the gates are closing for our top 5 themes that were better than the wrestler. Ryan, fill us in a little bit more about that because there's not much time left.
Yes, that's right. You can go over to our YouTube channel, of course, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Check out the video. It's called Themes That Are Better Than the Wrestler. You can see in that video that I'm looking for some input. You can just leave a comment in the YouTube section. You know, think of themes that you felt really outshine the wrestlers. So we're gonna give people, you know, another week to leave their suggestions. So we'll be closing that around November 10th. Let's go with that, November 10th. And so we'll take suggestions there. Just leave the name of the theme and just a quick little reason why. Any suggestions you put in that comment section will be guaranteed to at least be in our honorable mention section. And if it's good enough, it may make that top 5. So make sure to think of some good ideas and drop a comment on that video.
Thank you for that, sir. And speaking of our YouTube channel, last week you actually brought up a very difficult question, which is, why don't people subscribe to the WWE Network? We use it all the time. You know, we get the pay-per-views. It's $9.99, which for all the hate that we give WWE for shoving that down our throats, it's a great price. We get the pay-per-view, we get a lot of stuff. Yet in the last financial thing, they gained like what, 31,000 subscribers in the US. That's horrible. I mean, that's not bad. That's not like a little bit difficult. That's terrible.
Wait, is that number only in the US?
No, I think that's total. I could be wrong.
There were a mixture of reports because there were two things that sort of brought out 30,000 something, and even then, it's bad in either case.
I think they said the net gain was like 4% or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, 4% is nothing considering the original expectations. Think about when they originally launched the network. They were like, you know what? We're going to get over 1 million subscribers. Now 1 million seems like even a stretch after WrestleMania, after all this stuff. So Ryan, what was the question that you sort of posed? And then can we get some sort of feedback about what people really thought about this? Sort of maybe pointing out why don't they have it, or just, you know what? Well, why do people hate it? Whatever.
Yeah, so basically the question I asked people in the discussion video was exactly that. Why don't you have the network, if you're a wrestling fan, or if you've had it, why did you cancel it? Just to kind of get an idea, because obviously all of us, even if we barely watch it, we all deem that it's worth it just for the pay-per-view alone, and we all enjoy watching the pay-per-view every month. So we just kind of wanted to get other people's, reactions. So anyway, here's one from YouTube. This is from a guy whose name is the Indigo Bros. So I don't know if that's more than one person or not, but he says, here are my reasons. I haven't enjoyed the pay-per-view quality since WrestleMania 30, and I don't have good internet speed, so even myself can't watch a Twitch TV stream smoothly or with decent quality. 3, and since Fox Sports here in Latin America is transmitting all WWE program as set pay-per-views with not only full shows, and he says in parentheses, thank Randy Savage that we no longer have to endure the super short 1-hour version of Raw, but with clear quality and at the same time as the shows happen in the network, they can watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, etc. He doesn't really have any incentive. And of course he says, awesome podcast as always, team. So good job, guys.
Thank you.
So internet speed. We've talked about this before. Obviously, some countries it's more difficult, or if you're in some back-ass part of Canada, your internet can't always be that good.
Just don't open that can of worms. It's horrible.
So yeah, that's a legitimate reason. People may actually prefer to watch it on, pay the $60 just so they're not afraid of it skipping every 5 seconds if their internet speed's bad.
It's totally legit. Like, even where I live, I have problems streaming stuff. Like, I can go watch the backlog, no problem. A hiccup here and a hiccup there. But during live pay-per-views, I have to stop and let it, buffer every once in a while. Either that or I'm just 5 minutes behind on everybody, which makes it real hard to keep up with the conversation on Twitter. It's just not fun.
And we're also leaving out bandwidth. Bandwidth is basically the limitation of how many things you can download a month. A lot of places have, I know, like Comcast is the only option, and they're being a little bit more flexible about that, but some people have like 10, 20, 30 gigs of bandwidth a month. A couple of years ago, that would have been fine, but when you're watching HD on YouTube, checking out the Byte That channel, that type of stuff, it clogs up.
I was going to say this after the comments, but I don't want to forget to say it. I think, a good saying that always rings true is Rome wasn't built in a day. And when it comes to the network, I mean, even Netflix took quite a while to really get off the ground.
Yep.
So we can't expect this to just, be an outright hit immediately. But back to comments. This YouTube comment is from Barney Johnson. And this brings up a very relevant thing that just recently happened. He says, the only reason I don't have it is because it hasn't been released yet in the UK. And if anyone has seen on Twitter, about 20 minutes before the network was supposed to launch in the UK, it was canceled.
That's crazy.
Apparently there was some kind of a network or something that had to do with that. So network brought down
People
a network.
think it's like Sky Sports or something that they got in the way of it. But that's got to be a huge disappointment that it's basically delayed until further notice. Moving on, Jim Bob KOTFX, just beautiful name. His reason, them shoving their $9.99 stuff down our throats is really cheesy and annoying and sometimes makes me want to unsubscribe. Also, the pay-per-views have not been that good ever since WrestleMania 30 Thursday. So
WrestleMania
Thursday. But he does admit SummerSlam was pretty good too. So this is a guy who is subscribing, but the fact that they're over-promoting it makes him want to unsubscribe. Any comments?
Agree and disagree. It's I totally get why they do it on Raw, because Raw is technically not a network program, but when they're shoving it down your throat during a pay-per-view or a pre-show, that's crazy considering you have to be on the network to watch that thing. Why would you be shoving that $9.99 price point right there?
Well, it's free this month, so if they do it this month, it makes sense.
But during the last pay-per-view, during SummerSlam, during all of them, it was all $9.99.
Some people may still be watching on the traditional pay-per-view system, but it's true. The small audience.
But the pre-show is especially what I'm thinking of, and that doesn't exist as far as I know on some of those things.
That is true.
And sort of going with that, it almost seems like they're just flat out blaming people or like pointing the finger at them. Because I remember in the last pay-per-view, if you're watching through traditional pay-per-view, you're paying over $50. Like the way they said it, I was like, I feel bad for that person.
I did that for years.
Now.
You're basically like roundabout insulting me for supporting you.
It's like, oh, years ago we were so cool about that 50, but you're spending $50 now on us. What is wrong with you? You know, I don't think that's the best strategy for really getting more subscribers.
All right, on to the last YouTube comment. This is from Pirate Hunter 316, and he made a excellent comment, but it's a little too much to read the entire thing. But I'm still going to read.
But thank you, first of all.
Yes, thank you. I'm still going to read a big chunk of it, so let's not waste any time. He says, first and foremost, WWE greatly overestimated their popularity. Wrestling is simply not cool. Juan, huh? You got a video about that? Go check it out this Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
Wrestling is simply not cool, and it is apparent to me that that only the hardcore fans are purchasing the network, and not more casual fans. Also, it seems that contrary to popular belief, it is not the old video library that is attracting people to buy this network, but pay-per-views for a cheap price that is the major selling point. Nostalgia of the Attitude Era and old wrestling is great, but honestly, WWE alienated old fans who would have enjoyed wrestling a long time ago. You can't expect older fans who stopped watching the product to simply pick up the network after years of displeasure with the product. It would be as if Apple was reselling the old iPhone 1, and yet the new iPhone 6 was a piece of poopy. Sure, the iPhone, it was great at the time, just like the Attitude Era was great at the time, but I already did what can be done with that phone or viewed that show. Why should a consumer be happy with WWE reselling things that they've already had in the past? WWE should be trying to attract new fans to their overall product, to do what they should to make their pay-per-views must-see, a task that they are failing at tremendously. Why should I watch a pay-per-view when all it is just another Raw card filled with rematches? I say WWE produces 4 out of 12 pay-per-views that are worth anyone's time. Imagine if you went to a store where they sold a box of candy, but 7 out of 12 months they took a big crap in that candy box. Very nice analogy.
Wow, that's actually really
That's
good.
amazing.
I don't know if it's that bad, but anyway.
No, it's an incredible analogy.
So why do you have the network? I have said it before that it is reasonable to believe that most of the network subscribers are hardcore fans, because hardcore fans wouldn't pass up on the great deal that the network does truly offer. The fans who were angry when Batista won the 2014 Rumble and cheered for CM Punk in Chicago in 2011 and can't stand Cena, why do you have the network? The hardcore fans are some of the most outspoken when it comes to the displeasure with the current product. Just listen to an arena full of people chanting Cena sucks, yet they gladly give WWE $9.99 a month, rewarding the WWE for mediocre product. Of course, I know the answer is that they love wrestling and God bless them for it, but WWE is only looking for their money and not their enjoyment. I might have a pessimistic outlook when it comes to the current wrestling product in the network, but I support wrestling in a different way by listening to the Byte That Wrestling podcast, where I get more than $9.99 a week for pure entertainment. Our show is free, by the way. But thank you, Pirate Hunter 316, for that great comment.
I love you.
I think I hit most of the main points. But any comments from you guys?
I think the overall thing I got out of that is that WWE has a huge identity crisis. That point that he made about they want to please the Attitude Era fans, but realistically, those people loved a very edgy product, which you don't have anymore. So you're trying to please the people that were there years ago, over a decade. We're at this point we're nearing 2 decades in a couple of years. And then you also have the kiddies, you also have the younger audience. So at some point you have to decide who is your primary audience for your overall product as a company. And then you got to make up your mind, okay, who is the network for?
I think his point about how the network basically appeases hardcore fans was spot on. Because realistically, if you didn't watch through the Attitude Era, if you didn't care about all these old pay-per-views, if you didn't want to see this in-depth look on how the Monday Night War was fought, or watch a 1-hour show on the Austin McMahon feud, what does the network really have for you? Not all that much, except 3 hours a month.
It's true. I mean, it really is all about trying to motivate the casual fans to want it. I would think even back when, pay-per-views were in their standard format, probably most of the casual fans almost never watched pay-per-views. They just got the recaps on Raw. Maybe they went to a bar or a restaurant to watch WrestleMania, and that was kind of the extent of it. So they weren't really paying that money before, so it's hard to motivate them to pay it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I'm not a big football guy, for example, but I listen to a couple of podcasts like Giant Bomb, some IGN podcasts, and they have football fans there. And I know football has like a service that you can sort of watch every game. I know there's like a ton of games.
Sunday Ticket.
Sunday Ticket.
I won't pretend to know about all this, but obviously I'm oblivious to it. So I'm thinking it's like $20, $30, but it's like over $200, and I'm just thinking like, holy crap, that's expensive. But at the same time, they built that up over time. They have that demand because I remember I read somewhere, and it's sort of related to this. It's that the current product, it's not hot enough to sort of really warrant any money. You can just watch Raw, and then you can watch videos on YouTube posted by WWE, and a lot of times there's not that big of an incentive to really watch other stuff.
This is going to be a bit of a controversial opinion, but I feel that the WWE Network won't really succeed unless they go all in and put Raw on it, or even SmackDown, because they're not really fully committing to the network. Because if you think about it, you can get the large majority of the WWE programming at the moment without owning the network, just from being able to watch Monday Night Raw.
To sort of answer that, I got to bring up something that they left on Facebook
USA
regarding this
Network
topic.
would have a problem with that, but go ahead.
Well, yeah.
But this comment was left by a personal friend of ours, Jamie Burko.
And he writes, read the name correctly, please.
Absolutely not.
Fine. Okay. His Facebook name is Jamie Waluigi Burko.
Jamie,
so
human piece of trash Nintendo character Burko. Yes, that's what you said.
Anya.
So he writes, I think people don't because WWE and wrestling in general are just not hot at this time. I have friends who also ask me who's the top guy, and when I mention Cena, they're always like, still? They need a new star. Obviously easier said than done, but they really need it. Totally. So the reason that I bring this up is because, much like the previous comment that Ryan mentioned from the YouTube channel, wrestling's just not hot at this time. It seems like it really did peak, much like maybe Dolph Ziggler's career did. So hypothetically, I think that what Keith is saying, even though it seems extreme, eventually they're going to have at some point be like, you know what? Either you go do the TV stuff, or you like risk it all and do the network.
I actually completely disagree with that. I think what they need to do is go all in on the quality of their television show. They don't have to put it all on the internet. If anything, that's going to make it harder for new people to discover the show. They need to do something to make the TV show compelling. I always say this, but it's gotta reflect the times. Let's be honest right now. TV, at least in the past several years, has been in a boom period with a lot of, the quality of TV shows are better than movies now at this point, with shows like Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones,
Walking
Dead.
Yeah.
You name it. There's more and more shows popping up that people are just getting hooked into. And Raw doesn't necessarily have that hook at the end of every episode. And even you watch some of the Monday Night War things, and they talk about how every week they racked their brain to how do we make this show even better than the last one. Doesn't seem like they really try and do that anymore. They're kind of happy with just coasting. So they need a legitimate, compelling TV show that needs to compete with Game of Thrones and the likes of that.
And to really go along with that, I was listening to the Working Man's podcast today, the Steve Austin Show, podcast 1. And he was taking some listener questions, but it was cool because he could actually just flat out talk to them. And one of the people that made the call was somebody that's been watching wrestling since like NWA, like AWA, so very old wrestling. And he pointed out something that goes exactly with what you're talking about. He brought up the Authority as an example, that wrestling has always done this, a corrupt leader tries to take down the good guy, the working man. Like Stone Cold and Vince, they clicked. But it's not the first time wrestling had done that. There's always, the corrupt manager, corrupt leader, corrupt owner. There's always that corrupt person, and then the person that's just trying to beat them. And it's at 2014, and we're still doing that. Now, there's good ways of doing it and bad ones. But with like what Ryan mentioned, there's just so many different ways that you can do it. But you have to keep in mind your audience. Ryan races up the question about Breaking Bad. For those that don't know about the series, just a quick thing. When I first heard about it, I thought the whole concept was stupid. It's this a teacher that has cancer, and then he wants to make money to feed his family. That's really it. That's what the series is technically about. When you read that, you're like, okay, I don't care. But when you see how it's done, you're like, okay, I've never seen this before. Like, you can tell they're trying to make some compelling TV. With wrestling, it's very much, you know what, we got to go back to the Attitude Era stuff. But we can't do the blood. We can't do the chair shots. We can't do the sex. So we're going to do a toned down version of that and hope the new audience can sort of accept that, while the other ones go, they're bringing the Attitude Era back for a week.
I think you hit the nail directly on the head when you said that's something I've never seen before. I think that's what they need to strive towards, showing us something we've never seen.
Yeah, and the thing is, they don't need the blood, they don't need the chair shots. They need compelling stories with compelling characters. I just had something, hold on.
Less Victor Newman, more Walter White.
Well, basically, one thing I want to say is, this may be sacrilege to a lot of wrestling fans, but I'm honestly saying less wrestling, more soap opera. They honestly need that. As crazy as that sounds.
Open the door.
They need more of that. Like, what's gonna happen with Randy Orton this week? Like, he has to do this or whatever. You need people talking. You need the water cooler talks of, you see what happened with Orton last night? What are they going to do this week? What's the consequences of what just happened? There's no water cooler talk anymore, except once in a blue moon. Obviously, you get the Seth Rollins turning on the Shield every once in a while, but you need that on a week-to-week basis. It can't be a home run every single time, but it's got to be a little something to keep you going to the next week.
It's an interesting point, because if you think about, I'm going to use Austin and McMahon for this example, there was never really the big conclusion match at the end of every Raw with Austin and McMahon. It was a lot of either Austin gets one over or McMahon gets one over, and then you talk the next day, did you see this? Do you see that? It's fascinating.
I don't want to break the fourth wall too much, but I made reference to the fact that I do work for a wrestling company down in Puerto Rico. I work more on the production end, and I try really hard to sort of apply all the things we talk about in the podcast. I try to make sure that I don't commit the same mistakes. And it's really hard. In many ways, I see why WWE has Michael Cole do what he does, because no matter how crazy a storyline you try to do, like Breaking Bad or anything, at the end of the day, it ends inside a squared circle. It doesn't matter what storyline. It doesn't matter if you're a demon, if you're a boogeyman, if you're the 5'6" guy that's trying to overcome the odds. They can do whatever storyline. We've had storylines about, your son's custody has hanged above a ladder, but it ends inside a ring. So it's really difficult to do that without sort of playing the ethical portion or the sex portion or the violent portion, but it can be done. But at the same time, when you have a roster that is this big, it's almost like, you know what? We'll focus an hour on this character and treat wrestling like a TV show or a movie as opposed to, well, a wrestling show.
Now to go completely off the rails, imagine a TV show where it's just think of all the roster members of WWE and just take out all the wrestling part. What if it was just a normal show with all of these characters in it? What would
I think
that be
that's
like?
called WWE Slam City, available on the WWE Network for just only $9.99.
Wow, you've owed me twice today.
You just can't get one right.
No.
Man, what's going on, Ryan? You need a hug, bro. No, but I think this brings up a lot of really good stuff. So thanks to everybody that sent out the comments on the YouTube.
But before we end, there was just one more point I wanted to make, and that was how the WWE is blundered terribly distributing the network in every other country besides America. Like, even in Canada, it's awful. You don't get any of the backlog. It's just a straight feed. There's the UK thing that came out this week. That probably doesn't help their numbers at all, considering how tedious and basically unattractive the network is in every other place but the United States. So I can totally see why, even though the network launched in most of the rest of the world, the numbers didn't really go up that much.
And I think that the WWE and us as fans sort of realize something about all this, which is wrestling's just not that big. You know, to us it's huge because we grew up watching
our lives.
it. But exactly, I mean, I've sometimes thought, do you realize what my life would be like without wrestling? I just can't do it. I've always lived by it. You know, all the hours, all that good stuff.
At the end of the day, do you think it probably would have been a better choice for WWE to just make the network like $20 a month and not feel so pressured to get so many subscribers to break even? Because they could have been probably riding high with the amount of subscribers they had, no big deal, $20 a month. All of us probably would have, still bought it, no problem.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that instead of negotiating, they just went, we're going to give it to a price point that everybody wants it, except not everybody wants it, and you already put it at that price point. If you raise that price point, you look worse. So it's a very tough situation, and we could make an entire week's worth of podcast about this, but everybody listening, make sure to leave a comment about this because it's a very interesting topic. Check out the full comment from that large one that Ryan put out, checking out the YouTube channel, watch the video, why don't you have the WWE Network? So before we close out the show, we actually have yet another question that we want to bring up that Keith, you, my friend, have readily available.
Indeed, it comes from the question master himself, Mr. Brelo Light, friend of the show, friend of me, friend of love, friend of life. The question is...
That was deep.
I know. Think about that one. I'll let it sink in. 1, 2, 3. All right, sunk in. Awesome. Now, this question is, now that months have passed since WrestleMania 30, how do you feel about Lesnar ending the streak, and where do you think he has gone since? Do you think he has done enough to justify ending the streak by having dominant performances, or do you think he still has to achieve more?
Thank you, Mr. Brelo Light, for that question. Ryan, who takes this first, you or myself?
I'll go. I don't think the streak needed to end at all, but I think what they've done so far, I'm completely okay with. They've kept Lesnar looking godlike, basically, pretty much unstoppable. I think they could go longer than just up till WrestleMania where he gets defeated. I think they should keep it going for even longer. When it comes to a situation like breaking the streak, this guy needs to be dominant for a very long time. Unfortunately, I think it's just going to fall into a predictable formula of him losing at WrestleMania to the next guy they want to build up. But hey, at least they're keeping him, really strong because you need to after a situation like that.
Pretty much what Mr. McNulty said. I think that if it were up to me, I would have Brock Lesnar be the next Bruno Sammartino in the way that he's a champion for so long that the product just keeps going and nobody expects him to lose because you establish him that way. So you get to a point where anybody that beats him is like, holy crap, there is a new champion. There is a new thing because the WWE has done many great things with Brock after the streak. Like when he was dominating John Cena, he did the Taker sit-up and then, was just laughing maniacally. That was great. But we are talking about something that took over a decade to establish. WWE's got to make the best of this. They got to drag it out, and I don't think they've done that to the maximum potential. So if it ends at WrestleMania, to me, it's like, okay, I get it. It's been a long time. You need your champion because you want to sell those championship belts and all that, but do something different. Essentially, this entire podcast episode has been about that. WWE needs to do something that we haven't seen before. And nowadays, I don't think anybody expects Brock Lesnar to lose at Wrestle. Wait, okay, my name is Juan Velez. Anybody expects him to win at WrestleMania?
You did it. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, I did it.
You're like Hulk Hogan screwing up his lines on SmackDown.
At the right place, at the right time. Yeah, make that happen, okay? Just that.
And I have half the brain that you do. Exactly. No, I basically agree with what you guys said, but we have Brock Lesnar and John Cena on the horizon. I'm so worried about them fumbling this whole thing with that match. Ugh. And it's been great up until now, and it has all these great plans in the future, but there's still that match. It's almost like a giant barricade in this road of awesome. And once we get past that, then we'll see. But it's getting to that point first.
If this ends with John Cena beating Lesnar, we riot. Hell, man?
Basically, if Cena wins, we riot.
You think they'll just throw it away at like a TLC or whatever?
Think about how the match at Night of Champions ended. They're kind of almost speeding directly towards that barricade.
Sad but true. It seems like that's what will inevitably happen unless Daniel Bryan comes back. And
if that happens, I have my doubts I will unsubscribe from the WWE Network and have
save $9.99. This doesn't happen,
and I won't be able to talk about the pay-per-views on the show.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Brelo Light, for sending that question. Just a quick thing before, make sure to stay tuned after Ryan says his words, because we are actually going to be playing a very special track courtesy of Mr. Mike Ascion, friend of the show, a piano rendition of the Undertaker theme song. So you definitely want to stick. Yeah, you got to check that out. So Mr. McNulty, send us home, but not all the way. Don't close the door.
Alrighty, well, we want to thank everyone for listening to another edition of the Byte That podcast. So it's time to do them plugs. Let's just get it right out of the way. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. This Thursday, Juan has his video, What Can Make Wrestling Cool Again? Is that the right title? I think I'm onto it.
Can Wrestling Be Cool Again?
Can Wrestling Be Cool Again? I was pretty darn close. Also, remember to go back and check my 2 videos out from the past 2 weeks. One, why don't you have the WWE Network? And the other one, of course, is our top 5 themes that are better than the wrestler themselves. Make sure to leave your suggestion in the comment section on that video. And of course, I'll have another video up this weekend. And check us out on social media at Byte That Cast on Twitter and Facebook.com/Byte That Cast. Don't forget, this podcast is not only on YouTube, but also iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. So without further ado, here is that Undertaker cover to play you guys out. We'll see you next week.